Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a follow-up video from the last one I've made. So basically, I've got DMs and I've got comments asking how do I take macro photographs on the Vivo X300 Pro. It's actually pretty simple and you have to fiddle around with the settings a little bit. By default, it doesn't take the best macro photographs. There is a bit of a focusing issue in terms of close focus and like I mentioned in my last video. So this thing has an issue where the primary sensor, it shifts to the ultra wide and crops in if the focal length is too close, even when you're still on 1x or even when you're still on 24 mm. It crops in from the ultra wide sensor, and the ultra wide isn't bad in any way, but the primary sensor is so much better in terms of color accuracy, and the overall image looks a lot cleaner, a lot more detailed compared to the ultra wide. So for that reason, whenever this shift to the ultra wide happens, you really notice degradation in image quality. And so what I generally do is I kind of force the device to stay on the primary camera if I'm taking a macro photograph. Or the best thing you could do is you actually have an incredible 200 megapixel telephoto sensor that is huge. And if you have been following Vivo for quite some time, you'll know that over the past 3 years they have been perfecting this telephoto lens, this 200 megapixel telephoto lens. Incredible aperture, like a huge sensor lets an incredible amount of light in, and for that reason you get a really good amount of details, and the photographs are just exceptional from this lens. So that's what I use for my macro photographs. And before I rant about these settings, I'll just show you some of the photographs I have in my gallery. So this is just a random photograph. You can kind of see my reflection, just a random photograph I took. There is something else that I need to address here, that my camera has I'm shooting this on an S21 FE, and it's not the best video camera. So the images are actually pretty exceptional, and you can see the images on my Reddit post on r/Vivo. Maybe not this image, but all of these images which I took are on r/Vivo. So we'll just skip to the macro photographs that I took. So one thing I have to tell you is all of the macro photographs that I do take are taken on the 3.5x telephoto lens, and the details are pretty good. The colors are great depending upon lighting, of course. If the lighting is too dull, the photographs do tend to look a little bit dull. So in this case here, the colors look a bit muted towards the grayish side, and I don't like that. I like vivid colors. I like actual colors that you see when sunlight reflects off something. That is the most pleasing to me, and that's what I try to take every time. But depending upon shooting scenario, that happens. And I'll tell you about something that I use to correct this color issue. So this is yet another macro photograph taken on the telephoto lens, and this has been enhanced using the AI upscaler. This is a damselfly. I must say, I do like the images. It's not incredible, the details are not incredible, but I do like the images. And if you have tried photographing flies, damselflies or butterflies or whatever, you'll understand that they do keep a distance. They tend to stay about 50 to 60 centimeters away from you. So they don't like you going into their proximity. Whenever they see you too close to them, they'll just fly off. And so most of the photographs are taken from about a half a meter, 50 centimeter. And I think at the very least, the closest I've been able to get was around 40 or 30 centimeters. So the images, for what it's worth, I really like how the images turned out in this device. So we'll just look at some of the macro photographs that I've taken. Yet another photograph. So this thing, goddamn, this made quite a stir on Reddit. Someone literally stole my same photograph and used AI and changed it to a separate background and posted it. And I'll just show you the EXIF file if I can. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, so you can see that this is my original photograph. And this is the location where I took the image from on the 35 mm equivalent focal length, basically the telephoto lens, that's what it means. So I guess this image was good, that people wanted to steal it basically. So you do understand that insects like this really don't like humans going too close to them. They kind of view us as a large, ominous, threatening object, and rightfully so. So in order to take these photographs, you actually have to maintain a little bit of a distance, maybe 30 or 40 centimeters away from the object. But even with that, this phone is able to capture quite good images with the telephoto lens here. You have to use this for your macro photographs. However tempted you are to use the ultra wide or the main lens, this will always give you the best results. Yep. So this is basically the photographs I took. I just wanted to show a few of them to you. And in this image you can see that the image algorithm was not able to recognize the grasshopper here, and so it's still dull. It's not sharpened. So these are some of the photographs I took using the telephoto lens, and now I'll show you what the exact settings I use are. So I'm currently in the camera app. You might be able to see that it's pretty dull. That's because I have the lens protector on. I just took it off now. So here right now, since I'm pretty close to the surface here, I'm actually getting a cropped image from the 1x sensor. I'm getting a cropped image from the 0.6x or the ultra wide sensor. So I don't want that. Whenever you take macro, go to the 3.5x or 85mm sensor, and then it's asking me to move further away. So move however distance is required. I kind of have a limitation with the current shooting setup that I have here. I'm using a really small tripod, so I can't move the or maybe I can. Okay, I'll just keep it really close to the camera. So this will be my object which I want to use for the macro photograph. So I'll zoom in and I'll tap on it multiple times, and this is for two reasons. Number one is for it to adjust the exposure value depending upon the lighting, and the second reason is I want the phone to use its IR sensor that's here, IR rangefinder, to calculate the distance between the phone and the object here, so that it can focus on the object properly. So this is the kind of image that you get out of it. If you see, the details are extremely good. My S21 FE isn't even able to pick up the details, so with a keen eye you can see how cool the details are. Oops, how cool the details are. It's pretty amazing, I must say. So that's how you take photographs with the macro photographs with the 3.5x sensor here. You can zoom further in, but I would not recommend going beyond 10x. So if you go beyond 10x, the image kind of suffers. Actually, up to 12x, the image still stays pretty sharp and it stays pretty usable. But the thing is, I don't like the AI over sharpening that it does. So try to stay between 10 and 12x and you'll get an incredible photographs. Now the second thing is, so the object I used here is pretty easy for the camera algorithm or whatever it is. I don't know if you can call it an AI, or basically what the camera app does is it tries to measure distance, and this is a pretty easy object to track. If it were something that is a bit more difficult, or that's small and that's moving, in that case you can no longer use the autofocusing. You can only use autofocus for things that are not moving. So in the image of the spider, So this dude was injecting venom straight into the bee's torso. So basically what spiders do is they inject their venom, which is basically a digestive enzyme, into the body of whichever animal that they want to consume, and this enzyme dissolves everything on the inside, and the spider sucks out the pre-digested stuff, leaving an empty shell. So while it's doing that, the spider can't jump around or move around, and for that reason I was able to get a pretty good photograph of this bee right here, bee being devoured by a spider right here. So all the other images, except maybe this one, this bug was a bit lazy, he didn't want to move away, so I got a pretty good clarity, and maybe this dragonfly too. But the damselflies, the photographs are not as sharp because they don't like to stay at one place, and they don't like humans going into their proximity. So in that case, you can no longer use the autofocusing, you have to go to manual focusing. So shifting to the 35mm lens, you don't have to use super macro. Super macro kind of adds a fake background blur to the image, it just looks fake, it doesn't look good. And if you've used DSLRs, you might have seen this sort of, I don't know, like sort of a grid sort of a pattern it develops around whatever object you're trying to focus on. And for DSLRs, that they do it for objects that are in motion or objects that look drastically different. You saw those grids that just came up. So objects that are in motion or objects that are drastically different from the surrounding, or whatever is in center. And when you put super macro mode, I don't know if it's called super macro, oh yeah, it's called super macro. So when you put super macro mode, it does show those grids, kind of like those grids that you see in the DSLR, but it doesn't really do much other than telling the camera that, hey, the object that we are trying to capture is pretty close by, and add a ton of background blur, fake background blur. And so you don't need to put it in super macro. What I do instead is I put it in 35mm, and I zoom out, I zoom into however much zoom or however much magnification I want, and then I hit this manual focus, and I move around the focus slider till I get a sharp image. So it might not work the first time, you kind of have to spend some time, you kind of have to wait around, and you know, you taking photographs of damselflies and stuff like that, you don't have the liberty to move around a lot. If you spot one of these guys in the grass or in a shrub or in a bush, you kind of have to stop right there and then move extremely slowly towards it, as close as you can get. And the moment you feel that it's noticing you and it's trying to get away, you have to stop. And then you have to wait and wait and wait, and till it kind of it feels that, okay, this large ominous object that's coming towards me isn't a threat. Till it feels like that, the moment it feels that you're not a threat, it will let you come a bit closer and take a photograph. So none of these photos, I'll show you some of the other macro photos I have. So this dude, I spent about 3 minutes waiting for him to come close to me, and I got this photograph in pretty good resolution, and there was sunlight too. And there is another photograph I have, it looks stunning. I really loved that image of the dragonfly. Yeah, this one here. The detail on this is excellent. And if you have taken macro photographs on DSLRs, you will know that you will take maybe like 50 or 60 photographs with different focal lengths, and you will merge all of them, and finally you will get a really good resolution photograph. But for this shot of the dragonfly which I took here, I didn't do anything. I just focused and I clicked a picture, and I got an incredible photograph here. But that being said, you have to know how to use the manual focusing here, and you have to adjust the focal length depending upon what you're doing or what you're trying to focus on, and you'll get that option if you turn on this here. So by default it will be like this, you will not have that option, and you just have to come and tap here, and now you'll get the manual focusing. And Once you get the hang of this, it becomes incredibly easy, it becomes almost intuitive, and you'll be able to take excellent macro photographs using the Vivo X series, I guess. Everything from the X100 onwards, the camera app looks very similar. A lot of the features are the same. So I think from the X100 series onwards, you can use these tips which I just told you to take incredible macro photographs. That being said, if you see here, the device sort of recognizes that I'm trying to take close by objects, and it has changed to close focal lengths for me. I can turn that off to shift it to the main lens instead of defaulting. Like I told you, right now what it's doing is it's zooming in from the ultra wide. So if I move away, it'll take about a half a second and it'll shift to the main camera. I think it did shift now. Let me just move closer. Yeah, it shifted to the ultra wide now. And so basically, if you're really close to some object, it will default to this mode. You can't do anything about it. You can maybe tap it and turn it off, but it'll just come back on. So it doesn't matter if this stays on, but just don't use the super macro here. It might, like, it will show you like those grid sort of a pattern. Yeah, what you see here, it'll show you that, but I don't think it does anything. It just adds a ton of fake bokeh on the image. So just don't use that, and use the telephoto lens. Get a good distance. Tap on the object multiple times if you want to focus on it automatically. If it's still not happening, then adjust the focus using the manual focal length slider, and then click a photograph, and you'll end up with a really good photograph. So that's really all you have to do. It's really simple, and once you get the hang of it, you'll get really good at taking photographs with macro photographs with this device. So thank you, and that's all.